Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unite 2022. I'm so excited to be here today to show you this demonstration on building the best games with constant improvements. My name is Russell Sung, and I'm a developer advocate here at Unity. So let's get started. So Unity Gaming Services, what are they? They're a suite of tools to help you as a developer take care of some of the harder aspects of backend game development. So we've realized that developers encounter issues when building their games in some of these areas that we've provided these tools for. So why Unity Gaming Services? Well, creating games is hard, and creating games that engage your players with constant updates, with the ability to voice and text chat, these are all difficult solutions. And so what we've done is put together a suite of tools to help alleviate and accelerate your development process so that you can focus in on what's important, building these games. So let's take a look at the three pillars of Unity Gaming Services. First, we have the build your foundation. And so this is where you determine, is my game going to be multiplayer? How am I going to do my hosting? Is it going to be peer-to-peer? Is it going to be a dedicated game server? And these are solutions that Unity offers in our multiplayer. Now we have accounts. So the ability to manage your players' save data and information cross-platform and cross-device. And this is so important so that your players can play the games that they want where they are. Configuring and managing your game. So this is the ability to balance your game without having to redeploy and send those changes as a build to your players. So this reduces that friction for your team to be able to creatively balance your game. Next, we have the engage your players pillar. And so this is where we have analytics, understanding the behaviors of your player within your project. How long are they playing for? What kind of issues they're encountering in their game, and understanding these metrics is key to developing your game. Player engagement. Maybe you want to understand your churn rate. You want to understand your daily active users and your monthly active users. These are important metrics that help guide your framing for your upcoming content. Community solutions. As I mentioned before, voice and text chat is so important to gamers. They want to be able to engage with their players and each other. And so VBox provides that opportunity. Monitoring performance, the ability to really dive deep into your game's metrics and understanding where there's any potential performance issues, help alleviate some of the friction that your players might encounter when playing your game. And then, of course, we have the grow your game. So this pillar is focused on user acquisition, monetization, giving you as a developer options to be able to keep funding your project and growing your studio. Of course, we have mediation. So this is the ability to get the best value for your ad placements. And of course, in-app purchases. So these are some of the game backing solutions that we'll be covering today. First up is authentication. So authentication is really the heart of these services because all of the data that we're associating goes through authentication and is assigned to a player ID. Authentication also works with existing platforms such as Steam or Google logins and Meta as well. And so this again allows you as a developer to track player data cross-device and cross-platform. We also have Cloud Save. So this is the ability to upload your players' saved data from their device to the Unity Cloud so that you don't have to handle that conversion of data and that players can start playing from a tablet, for example, and then get home and play on their desktop or laptop. This allows you to manage that persistent player information. Then we have Cloud Code. So Cloud Code is the ability to offload complicated logic to the Unity Cloud so that you don't expose that scripting to your players. So this could reduce the complexity of your game while also protecting that data from your players. Next up, we have economy. So economy is the ability to create, manage, and edit a full list of items in your game, including inventories and in-app purchases, as well as being able to quickly balance the prices for those, which we'll see in our demo today. We also have cloud content delivery, which is the ability to offload large assets from your project to the cloud, and so that the players only encounter and download those objects when they need them. So your install base remains low, and that friction point for getting players in the game remains low. Next up, we have Mainframe. So Mainframe is a demo that we've created that showcases these Unity gaming services working together in a production-ready environment. So the idea is that you're going to be a bot or a virus deck playing against a computer-controlled opponent, and that logic is all hosted in Cloud Code, which is amazing. So the services that we're showcasing in Mainframe are Economy, Cloud Code, Cloud Save, Remote Config, and Analytics as well. So I mentioned remote config. What is remote config? So it's the ability to link logic between your game and our dashboards so that you're able to tweak those values from a very convenient web portal and deploy that change to your games without having to rebuild that project. You're able to update your game essentially in real time. It works also with game overrides so that you're able to do an A/B test very simply and easily, as opposed to before where you'd have to maybe communicate across different services to do this A/B testing. Game overrides is the ability to target your changes, for example, your economy changes or your remote config changes to certain segments of the audience. We have a bunch generated by default in analytics, but you're also able to create your own custom audiences. For example, a specific subset of players in a specific geography. So now let's take a quick look at authentication. And so I just want to do a deep dive here of the slide. It's an entry point for other backend services to function. We want to be able to allocate a player ID so that users don't have to worry about that initial friction of signing up to your game. So you can allow them to jump in quickly and understand, this is what your game is about. You can also utilize it with existing partners, like I mentioned before. And let's take a look at how that looks like in the demo of Mainframe. So as you can see here, we have a very simple sign-in page. And as soon as the player clicks this, they're now allocated a player ID. And so this is the piece of information that will showcase, and we're going to take a deeper dive at that later, that allocates the data for economy as well as cloud save. And so if you want to see how that looks like in the code, if we go to the authentication manager, you include these Unity services packages, right? And it's a simple instance. And we call this sign in anonymously async function that simply waits for the authentication service to begin. And so let's take a look back at our slides. Cloud code. So as I mentioned earlier, cloud code is the ability to offload some of this logic to your cloud. So for example, if you're building a loot-based game, you may not want your players to know or have access to locally the drop tables for your items. So what you can do is upload that loot table to cloud code and just have the game reference that loot table when necessary. This allows you to also then change that logic from one convenient dashboard and adapt that on the fly. We utilize cloud code in Mainframe in a few ways. The biggest way is that the AI's actions are all handled as a query to the cloud code script. And what this means is that the front end of Mainframe is just displaying the results of what the AI wants to do. This protects your players and protects you because then you don't expose the chain of logic to those players. So it keeps them engaged and keeps them playing the game. Deck validation. So the interesting thing about cloud code is that you're also able to reference other services from the script, which means you can check with the economy service if that player actually owns those cards before allowing them to play that deck. And also deck shuffling. So this is just a simple way to randomize the deck that, again, is obscured from the player. So let's take a look at how that looks like in our game. So as I mentioned before, Mainframe is a collectible card game. You're battling against a AI-controlled opponent. And if we look at the dashboard here under our scripts, you can see that under these AI script, and this is written in JavaScript, but C# support is coming. And you can see that the logic for what the AI should do is assigned here. You have a very handy parameters running test script here so that you're able to check what your AI is doing. And you can also simulate a player ID in case you're checking against a particular player's inventory or something like that. Let's take a quick look at what Mainframe looks like in-game with Cloud Code. We'll sign in, we'll hit play. So as you can see, you have a series of cards that you can play, and the AI opponent responds to those actions. So if I play this card, I'm able to target that enemy. I'll end my turn. And you can see that the opponent chooses to play cards, but again, this is obscured from your player, and it's just a reference to that cloud code script. So I'm just going to concede here in the interest of time. And let's take a look back at our slides. Cloud save. So cloud save is the ability to, again, have persistent player data uploaded to the cloud. And we utilize this in Mainframe for the custom deck editor. So if your players were creating a deck on their phone, they would definitely want to play with that deck if they got home to their laptop or their consoles. And so cloud save allows you to upload that data and have that persist across platforms so that your players can stay engaged with their devices and your game. And so if we hop into our dashboard, we're going to take a look at what that looks like for Cloud Save. So if we go down to find a player and we enter the player ID that I showed you before, you're able to see that under this Cloud Save tab, we have the first deck that the player has, which is called Wreck and Infect. And we'll take a look at how that looks like in the editor as well. And you can see that this holds information that you can create a custom save for this as to, what avatar they're using, which kind of cards are in their deck, as well as player information like their in-game name, when they made a first purchase or not, things like that. So in Mainframe, you can see that if I were to go to the deck editor, we have the same name, it's the same player information saved here. And let's take a look back at our slides. So economy. As I mentioned before, economy is the ability to, create and manage these large databases of information for your game in terms of inventory. So in Mainframe, each card is actually a inventory entry that contains information about it, its price, and some of its custom data that you can allocate as well. We use it in our in-game shop, and it's linked with the authentication player data as I showed you before. So let's take a look at the demo and how we can change some prices of some items in our shop. So as you can see, you're able to purchase either a virus or a deck bot, and it's pretty expensive at 2,000 credits. So we don't have enough. So what we'll do is we'll go into our dashboard here, and we're going to configure the prices for those items. So as I mentioned before, each of the cards in the game are represented in this economy item. And if we go to the virus deck, you can see that it's a bundle of other cards. And so here, what we're going to do is we're going to change the price down for the virus, and we're going to change the price also for the bot deck. Let's make that 149. Let's save. We want to make sure to publish that change so that your game clients can have access to that. You'll see that it's verified here. And if we take a look back at the game, and so you can see that the ability to change that price was codeless. So that means that monetization and design teams are able to tweak and balance your game in these ways without having to have a coding background. So if we look at the shop here, you'll see that those prices have updated essentially in real time. The next time a user opens the store, they'll see that those values have updated based on what you've input in that dashboard, which is huge. So let's take a look at our slides. We have remote config. And so as I mentioned before, remote config is that ability to host a key value pair. So this could be a float, it could be a JSON. And in this case for Mainframe, we have all of the values for the cards as a JSON hosted on remote config. So what this means is that we're able to balance changes to the cards in real time. And you can combine it with game overrides, as I mentioned before, to do something called A/B testing. That means that you're able to deploy changes to specific regions or to do a test of changes before deploying that change to your entire player base. So this means that you can then do some data-driven, answers as to, should I really change this for this game or should I leave it as is? It also allows you to do a gradual rollout of features across geographies. So for example, you could roll out a seasonal event that's specific to a local region of the world and not have that content interfere with other players. So let's take a look at how that looks like in our demo. So if we go to the deck editor, we can see that this Kraken card has a 1 cost to play, but it seems like its stats are a little bit unbalanced. And so let's change that. So if we go to our remote config page here, you can see that, as I mentioned, it's a JSON file. And let's reduce those values to a little bit more of a reasonable amount. We're going to hit 2 for damage and 1 for health, hit confirm. And we're going to publish this change. So again, that the clients have access to that. And if we look back at the game, you'll see that when we sign in and take a look at the deck editor, those values are updated again seamlessly. And so this gives you as developers the power to really, handle balance changes quickly and easily without the traditional route of building a build and then deploying that change again. And that friction point for your players is greatly reduced. And so while we're here, I also wanted to call out how easy it is to install these services. So they all exist as packages in the package manager, and you're able to quickly and easily add them to your project. You just also want to make sure that under your project settings and services that you've linked your project on your dashboard.unity3d.com to make sure that these services are functioning and talking to each other. And let us take a look back at our slides. And so one of the things that I wanted to cover as well is Unity Gaming Services Analytics. And so analytics is this crucial piece of information that studios make use of to understand, how are my players engaging in my game? It's an end-to-end suite of data tools to allow you to really dig deep and understand the metrics behind your game, game performance and behavior, such as the balance changes that we talked about. You're able to also customize these dashboards. So we've presented 3 dashboards that give you a highlight of game performance, revenue, player retention, but you're also able to create your own important metrics and create your own dashboard to showcase what's really important to you as a studio. It's within the Unity Gaming Services platform. You can use it as a standalone service. You don't have to download all of these services together. You're able to integrate the ones that are most valuable to your studio. And it's built from customer feedback. We've also included more advanced tools such as an SQL data explorer to allow you to really dig deep into your data and make the best insights. And we're constantly improving this service so that you as a developer get the best value for your information. So let's take a look at what that looks like on the dashboard. So if you go to the left side here and hit this analytics tab, you'll see that, as I mentioned, we have these preset dashboards. So quickly, you can take a really high-level view of what's happening in your game, such as your daily active users, monthly active users, and these are all metrics that are crucial to you. And so what you can also do is create custom events and analytics. So for example, for the A/B test that we're doing with that Kraken card, what you can do is create a specific event that triggers whenever a user wins with the edited card or when they win with the default card. And then in a custom analytics dashboard, for example, if we go to the Data Explorer, you're able to add metrics that are important to you. So in this case, you could add here a metric that's players that have won that custom event. But in this example, we'll just take a look at maybe comparing new users and a session length. And so you can see that there's that correlation. And the ability to really customize here is endless. You're able to add and remove metrics as and when you need them, and then have it presented in these beautiful charts and systems so that you can truly do a deeper dive into data-driven decision. Let's get back to our slides. So these are some of the resources that I think are really helpful for understanding Unity Gaming Services and how to best apply them for your project. Of course, we have the UGS website, so you're able to start from there and understand the value of each of the services. We have an extensive documentation for all of these services, and that's what we utilize to build Mainframe. Of course, the Unity forums allows you to engage with our developers as well as other developers who are using these services. And I just want to call out that we care about your feedback and we want to keep improving these services to provide the best way to accelerate your development. If you haven't already, the sign-up flow is the dashboard.unity3d.com, and this is where you can, of course, create an account and link these services to your project. And of course, the pricing page. All of these services have a free tier so that you can experiment and anticipate what that project would benefit from these services. And I also want to call out that these services pricing scales with your game. So it grows with your game. You're not expected to pay a AAA price for, handling a smaller amount of players than a million players. So I just wanted to make sure that you as a developer have the best tools at hand. Where should you go if you want to learn more? So we are constantly putting out webinars and seminars on how to utilize these services. So we would do like a deeper dive into an individual service and really showcase how to do implementation and how to tweak it to suit your project. And if you really are interested, you can follow us on our Powered by Unity Twitter and also, of course, our webpage. And if you have any feedback about these services, please feel free to post and chat with us. We would love to hear the feedback so that we can improve these services for you. And I just want to thank you again for your time. I'm really excited to be presenting here at Unite 2022 and have a great rest of your day.